Yo, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in between. My name's Alckemy. Welcome to the channel. And today I am going to be teaching you about Scalar, which is an amazing plugin. And I would not be recommending this if I didn't think that it was good. I'm recommending it to you because it has helped me overcome a lot of technical barriers when it comes to music theory. I'm not very well versed. I can show you how to make a minor and major whatever scale. But when it comes to, notations like this is something that I probably would never find on my own on purpose anyway. So one thing that I want to talk about with this whole shebang is that this is not only an amazing tool to find chord progressions that are practical and actually like decent to listen to, not like the obscure like bot chords or something from Cthulhu or whatever. But the other thing that I love about this plugin is that it has a guitar option that will show you what these chords are. So if I hit this, G major sharp 11 bass note on the D, you'll see that these notes that are lit up is how to play this on the guitar. And it folds over and it shows you a couple of different voicing options or whatever, because this basically is a representation of the fretboard. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, and so forth. And then if there's no fretboard, then you just play the open string. But I mean, how sick is that? That's like such a useful tool, even for just getting better at playing guitar. So anyways, the way that this works is I'm just going to go ahead and initialize this and talk about like how you pretty much go about finding a chord workflow in general, right? So there's kind of like this tier list or like this step option. So first and foremost, something that I'm not going to show you today is that there is a detection mode both with MIDI and audio. So if you want to try to like have Scalar guess what key a song is that you have in MP3 or WAV format, then you can toss that in and it will try to make guesses for you, which is sometimes cool because even if it's wrong, you sometimes get cool stuff. So don't be afraid to use that. The other thing is like if you just want to jam out and feel your way out and you start playing some notes or you play a melody and you're like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. This will actually figure out what scale or what the closest scale you're playing is and help suggest chords based off of the melody that you do. Like that alone, every feature that I've described on its own is almost worth like a mobile purchase itself, right? Like if I had that guitar thing on here and that was a mobile app, I would be over the moon because that shows me, like so much about how to just start to identify chords that I like. And then you just memorize some and suddenly you're playing an instrument, right? So I digress. Now, one thing else that you can kind of count on is that you generally find a note, then you find a scale, then you find the notes within the scale, and then you build chords off of that. So let me show you what that is. You click on scales, then you click on one of these guys. Let's just go G, and then you can find anything or just pick one of these in general. So let's go Phrygian, wherever that is. Yay, I like Phrygian. So if I click on this scale right here, it's going to show me all the chords that are within this scale. The scale is just a collection of notes that have a particular relationship with each other. Usually they are harmonically pleasing or give some kind of style or flavor. The Phrygian in particular is described as exotic, Latin, and lively. Right? So that works. I like Phrygian stuff because a lot of flamenco is used in that. Now, between these scales, you usually have anywhere between 5 and 7 notes within the scale before it repeats the octave. So what's cool is that each scale degree has its own chord. So we've got the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, and the 7. These variations will show you what their formal name is. I'm not going to read them out to you, but just put that in your pocket. But even still, that's kind of cool that the information is there, right? So typically speaking, in like popular music, like EDM, pop in general, like you've got these different chord progressions that are labeled by a number. So you might go like the 4-5-1 or the 5-6-2 or the 2-5-1 or whatever. So if you already have a chord progression that you know about from one of your favorite songs, you can just go look it up on the internet. You can be like, oh well, I'm going to use the 4-6-1-2. There it is, right? So there we go. We just made a trance tune. So, I mean, it could be that easy. I wouldn't recommend doing this and then just like dragging it out with a 4-part harmony. What I would recommend is picking something that is starting basic, but then exploring these different options that you have to make these chords more interesting. So for example, if we wanted this to be more jazzy or something, we could use sevenths, and I could replace any of these with this. So And like one thing to keep in mind, just as like my own personal thing, is try not to go through all of the chords like this, because it's going to like dull you from anything sounding interesting, because it's giving you everything all at once. The magic is not clicking through all of these and sometimes either taking a guess or doing what I told you about, like finding like a random progression or something and then exploring your options. But if you just, I don't know, I guess like play through all the chords all at once, you become super desensitized to it and nothing sounds interesting anymore. So just be aware of that. That's like my own, like, you know, Alckemy's philosophy on that. So anyways, from this though, you know, if I wanted to replace this with a, now I've got, and I didn't have to change them all. I didn't have to use sevenths on every single progression, but just changing one chord made it a lot more interesting, right? So between that, you've also got, you know, ninths, 11ths, and 13ths. Past 13th is back to the same octave, so that's why it usually goes up to 13ths. But you've got different voicings as well. So 1 through 7, 6 and 7, 7's inverted. I don't really know what all of these mean, but it's okay, because if I were to click on one, it would show me what this is on the piano roll. Yay! So maybe I want to replace the 2, and now we've got, sounds pretty good either way. It sounds a little bit more interesting. So from here, you've got the different voicing options. You've also got different variations. And these variations are chord variations based off of the chord numbers that you have. The tonic is the first, supertonic, mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediant, and leading tone, 1 through 7. So if I click on the first one, you'll see that all of these are labeled as 1. They have different names right here at the bottom, but they're still categorized as the Roman numeral 1. So I have the 1 here, but instead of using this one, I can find, you know, any one of these and see how that sounds. We suddenly went from going from triads of this progression to something that is way more interesting and still in key. You know, I would never make a tune like this. This is way too like happy-go-lucky for me, but at the same time, it works, it sounds good, and there's a lot of variation to just play and understand chords in general, right? So the next thing is the modulation, which is kind of cool because it brings up the circle of fifths and it gives us this chord progression that we've got right here, right? Which is the... So I can pick any one of these on here. I'm not going to explain the circle of fifths. You can go look that up in a different video, but I can pick something like this, and this will try to show me the relationship between this note and these chord progressions that I have. And that's dictated by the coloring of these. So there's C major, E minor 7, G, whatever, G major 11, and A minor 6. And only these two chords have a note that is being shared between this scale. The more blue it is, thanks Zane Wolf, by the way, the more closer the chord is in relation to the scale. So if I wanted to find something that was related, this says C minor, so I'm sure if we find something in C, there's going to be something in here. Well, maybe not. Maybe G minor. There we go. Now we've got some that are within the same scale. If I go C sharp, nothing. I can kind of just cycle through some of these. Oh, these two work right here. D, A. These two work. We just clicked on that earlier. A flat works, so these work, so I can maybe even use that as a fifth chord. I really don't like that, but it's too happy for me. Hashtag no happy music. But if you're really keen on like making stuff like fit and work, then you can stay in the blue. Blue is safe. But for me, I actually like to do stuff like this, where we can get into the edit mode here. So I'm going to take the last chord and move this over here and then click edit. And now I'm just going to change the semitone of the last chord into a small key change. So now I've got something that's a little bit more mysterious and a little bit more funky. I can even just use these two chords, honestly. So just like the bum, bum, dun, 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 dun. I got into something that I didn't want to get into, but I can hear it now, the beautiful 808 and swinging drums in the background to white noise, vinyl crackle, you know, just sloppy lo-fi sounds. It's wonderful, really, when you start thinking about things like that, which alludes to like don't overcomplicate it. But for whatever reason, if you're having a hard time, which I'm just having a great time just making chords and stuff and showing you like this is pretty fun, we can click on a chord like this and hit the suggest button, and now on any one of these it will suggest a different chord for me. So if I wanted to switch this up into something different, it could be like, hey, try this. Oh, okay, all right, well that's a different chord now, but maybe I want to switch that out, or maybe I want to add this after. So I could be like, all right, well, so I've got a 4-part harmony that's in scale or like in key, and then it goes somewhere else. And there's nothing wrong with that, and that's fun, and that's what you should be doing. You should find stuff that's beyond just the, basic triads of a scale. It's a great learning place, but see, this helps me encourage and helps me move outside of that comfort zone that I would normally try to do. And that's what I'm guilty of. A lot of times when I'm writing music, I want it to be all dark and mysterious and stuff, but I'm just writing in like G minor or something, and it's like generic as heck. This is a tool that when used in the right hands will give you something that could be interesting. So you can do your modulations and all that, or you can do your suggestions. You can make the changes based off of the circle of fifths. Very quickly, there's also some arpeggiator options or different performance options like strumming, phrases, rhythms, bass, melody. You can find that stuff for yourself. There's also voice grouping of these and humanization, which is kind of cool, whether it be velocity, timing, both, and quantize and swing. If you have the arpeggiator on, I don't really use any of this stuff because I'm more so focused on finding like the interesting pitch relations in between each other, because once I have something like that, I can change this up into different kinds of pads or different kinds of how do you say, just different kinds of movements and motions. So I have this really short chord progression right here that isn't any more interesting than the one that I was playing from before, but it's just a bunch of sine waves, and I added this ricochet thing. And if I were to loop this, hit the loop, give me the loop, give me the loop. That's I don't know, just add like a pitch drop to it or something. You got to hear it though, you gotta go to it, you gotta audiate, and you got to imagine making this stuff interesting. Because if you just throw in a 4-part harmony, that's not really going to be all that interesting. It's not going to be cool. You're just going to be like, oh, that's whatever. But when you listen to a lot of music that I do, and the use cases of what I was hoping to achieve, like, this is money for me. There's so much good stuff that I can find that help me create ideas in which to make like original sounding beats that I don't have to go and sample. I'm a sound designer. I've been doing sound design for almost 10 years. So why can I make really cool, instruments and all that, but I can't figure out how to contextualize them in a musical way? This is a perfect tool. And not only that, it's not just a cheat sheet. It's something that I can use in which to not only reference, but in which to build a deeper understanding of musical theory in regards to making chords. So I hope that was helpful to you. I hope that this video gave you a little bit of insight about how useful this is to a producer like me, who is primarily like centered around beats and bass. And you're going to see this being played in a lot of my music as like I continue to make beats and all that, because it sounds good, and that's what really matters. So anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that this was informal to you. Again, I don't have any affiliate links or anything, but if you want to support the channel, you can figure all that stuff out in the description. Get yourself some dope basses from alchemy.com, or book a lesson with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.